Fox News Podcasts presents the Bret Baier Podcast with Fox News Chief Political Anchor Bret Baier.
For my new book, The Case for America, an argument on behalf of our nation, written ahead of the country's 250th anniversary, I traveled across the country asking people one simple question: what makes this country worth it? I sat down with David Rubenstein, co-founder of one of America's leading private equity firms, the Carlyle Group. We discussed America's core values, what the American dream means to him, and his personal case for America. So this is about the Case for America. It's a project that I've been working on for a while, and essentially it's talking to various people across not only historical background and history, but business people about if you had to make the case for America to a jury of your peers, which are the readers of this book coming out before the 250th anniversary. So you're clearly a person who loves being engaged in many facets of the American experience, from business to baseball to the arts and education, philanthropy. What's the nature of America that allows, you think, for this opportunity and engagement?
Well, America is a country in which people have the opportunity to rise up from very modest circumstances and get to the top of society. We see that all the time in the people we elect as president. Typically, they come from modest backgrounds, honestly. But we see that as well in the people that are the business leaders, political leaders. They rarely come from the wealthy, moneyed class or the third or fourth generation of a family that's been around forever. I don't know if there are any members of Congress who came from the Mayflower generation or people are descended from that kind of ilk. So it's a country where people believe you can rise to the top. Now, obviously, some people do not believe that now. Some people in the lower socioeconomic classes think that the American dream is really a dream for other people, particularly immigrants. But generally, what this country has stood for 250 years is the country stands for an opportunity for people to take advantage of their skills, their work ethic, and their capacity for work to get somewhere and to build something. And we have lived up in many ways to the dream that the Founding Fathers had. The Founding Fathers did not believe, of course, that we would be the superpower that we became. Nobody thought that was realistic in 1776. But if they came back today, I think they would be stunned at what the United States has achieved, but they would say that they had some role in it because of the way they created the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and so forth.
So you think that opportunity is still a big part of the American experience?
Absolutely. Opportunity to achieve what you want to achieve by hard work and some good luck, of course, is important. Now, the people that believe in the American dream, and as we all know, Mike Milken opened a museum recently dedicated to the belief in the American dream. And many people who have shown up to be involved in that are people that came from abroad or people that came from modest economic circumstances. And the sad thing is that today, when you do surveys of people in the lower socioeconomic classes of the United States, many of them do not believe in the American dream to the extent that people did 50 years ago or 100 years ago. And that's a weakness in the system. But overall, we have roughly 50 million immigrants in this country. No other country in the world has probably more than 7 million immigrants. And therefore, the fact that people are coming here in droves shows you that people really want what this country has because they don't think they can find it anywhere else.
You've written extensively about the American experiment, American leadership. You've explored a country capable of reinventing itself in the aftermath of a calamity. What's your key takeaway about American resilience?
American resilience is fairly evident from what happened in the Civil War. This is a country that was split apart. The country was so split apart that Abraham Lincoln, when he ran for president in 1860, got no votes at all in some southern states. He wasn't even on the ballot in many southern states. In my home state of Maryland, he got 2,000 votes. Yet the country fought a war. We lost roughly 3% of our population. Put it in context, that would be like losing 9 to 10 million people today. So 3% of our population, And yet the country did come together. Obviously, had Lincoln lived, I think Reconstruction would have been much better. And we are still far from the dreams that many people had for the country. But the country showed enormous resilience in coming together and rebuilding the country. And it showed enormous resilience as well in World War II. We were attacked in Pearl Harbor. We had a very, very modest-sized army at the time and Navy. And we came together over a 4-year period of time to conquer both Germany and Japan and Italy. And the result was, I think, a perfect example of the resilience and the determination of this country when attacked to kind of come together and fight for itself.
Yeah. I mean, you just talked about the American dream, and you've written about how it's a tangible reality. You also talked about, how for some people it's not as real as it was, or they say that to surveys. What does the American dream mean to you today?
The American dream means to me what my life means. My parents were not college graduates or high school graduates. My father worked in the post office his entire life, probably made no more than $10,000 a year when I was growing up. I was their only child, and yet I got scholarship to go to college and law school. And ultimately, I had a chance, just 3 years out of law school, to work in the White House. So how many countries can you work in the White House when you're, come from that kind of background? And then I built a company that became well known in the investment world, and now I've done other things. But to me, the opportunity to do these things would not have been possible in other countries, and particularly because of my last name. In many countries, there is enormous amount of discrimination against people who are Jewish. There is obviously some discrimination still in this country. There's still anti-Semitism for sure. But in 1776, there were no Jews at the Second Continental Congress, no Jews at the Constitutional Convention, and Jews were not allowed to vote in the United States at that time because there was a prohibition against people who were not Christian property-owning men voting. So from that very modest start, the country has changed a lot, and I give thanks to the country for changing. But I don't think I could have done what I've done in almost any other country.
Don't go anywhere. More of this interview coming right up. Yeah, it's an amazing story. We've talked about civic participation and how important it is to get people to plug in. As we get ready for this 250th, do you have any thoughts about how we can better get people civically engaged?
Well, right now, we don't know very much about the country's history relative to what people knew years ago. We don't teach civics very much anymore. We teach things that are going to get you a job at Goldman Sachs or Google or Facebook or Meta, because people are obsessed with technology, and maybe they should be. When I went to college, the average number of history majors in the United States was roughly 9%. Today, history majors in the United States college is roughly 1.5%. People are afraid of learning history. The result is that Americans don't really do well on history tests or civics tests because they don't study it anymore and they're not as worried about it. And the point of history, though, is this. There's a famous statement by a Harvard professor, and it captures what I mean. He said, those people that don't remember history are condemned to relive it. The point being that if you don't know about the mistakes of the past, you're probably going to do them again. And so what we should do is make sure people know about the mistakes we made and the challenges the country has, and then try to improve them upon those things. When you think about it, Mother Nature is a famous advertisement. You shouldn't fool Mother Nature. And Mother Nature has a way of evolving, and we call it evolution. We all evolved over hundreds of thousands, millions of years. Well, we should also learn how a country evolves and how a country can grow and prosper and become better than it once was. But you can't do that unless you take the elements that you began the country with and improve them. And we have to know what those elements are. You have to understand what it was that made the country good or bad. What led to the Civil War? What led to the racial discrimination? What led to the anti-Semitism? And see if we can't fix those things. So I think a major project of the 250th should be to remind people of the history and heritage of the country, the good and the bad, and try to improve on the good.
Yeah, a lot of times it comes back around, some of the past, the challenges we have to deal with. If you were challenged to making the case for America at the 250th, how would you do it?
I would say that the United States is one of roughly 220 countries in the world. And of all these countries, we're the one where the most people want to immigrate to. We're the one where we've built the biggest economy in the world, the greatest technology base in the world. We have the greatest higher education system in the world. And I think we have the greatest entrepreneurial instincts of any country in the world. And those combination of things enables this country to achieve what we've achieved. Now, remember, we only have 5% of the world's population, but we're roughly 18% of the world's GDP. So we're punching above our weight when you think about it. And think about this. Today, just in the last 24 hours, to go through your life, you have used a lot of American technologies. You probably can't get through your life every day without using a Google product, Facebook, Meta product, Netflix, or some other, let's say, Tesla product or something else like that. What company do you need to use their products of that is European to get through the day? Virtually none. And except for TikTok, Americans can get through the day without using anything invented really outside the United States. We made ourselves very dependent, and the world is very dependent on the products we've created. And I think that's a good thing for the United States. May not be as good a thing for other countries, but I think the United States has basically, with very modest population relative to other countries, been able to become the leading economic force in the world, leading military, political, and cultural force and technological force in the world. It's amazing when you think about it. If the founding fathers came back today, they'd be shocked at just how powerful this country has become relative to what it was when they started. Remember, that country had 3 million people in 1776. 3 million people. 500,000 of them were slaves.
Right. Yeah, numbers are astounding, which you look at today. You almost single-handedly created this whole genre of philanthropy, patriotic philanthropy. And, as you get to the 250th, why did you do that? And how do you reflect on it as we get to this big anniversary?
Well, when you get fortunate in the business world and you have money to give away, you could leave it all to your children, I suppose, but I didn't really think that was the best thing to do. So I wanted to do something while I was alive. And, I looked at many of the things that meant a lot to me, and I've given a lot of money away in scholarships to universities or high schools or other things I've been associated with, and a lot of money to medical research. But one thing that always struck me as maybe under philanthropied, if that's the right way to say, was reminding people of the history and heritage of the country. Because, let me put it this way. The human brain works in enormously strange ways at certain times. So it's brilliant. We've got Einstein, you've got Beethoven, you've got Picasso. Incredible what human brain has created. But think about this. Today, if you want to learn about the Washington Monument or the Lincoln Memorial or the Smithsonian, you can go into a computer and quickly get pictures of those buildings. If you want to learn about the Declaration of Independence, Constitution, you can quickly go online and read the documents. The impact on the brain is not the same as visiting in person. So if you visit in person, you're more likely to read about it before you get there. Certainly you're going to have a curator describe it to you, and more likely than not, you're going to read about it when you get back. And so the human brain doesn't work perfectly in the sense that it treats these experiences differently. Maybe 100 years, 200 or 500 years from today, looking at the Lincoln Memorial on a computer site will have the same impact on your understanding of history or your appreciation for it as actually going to visit the Lincoln Memorial. But today, that's not the case. So clearly, if you can preserve these buildings, preserve these documents, and have people visit these sites where they are, I think it's a good contribution to reminding people of the history and heritage of the country.
Hopefully the 250th overall is going to do that all year long.
I hope so.
David, thank you so much for the time.
Well, Bret, thank you very much for everything you're doing as well. Your books are great, and I look forward to reading this one.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.